They crossed into restricted space and discovered humanity's true power. Captain stood at the front of her ship and looked at the star map. The glowing lines showed every safe path through the galaxy, every trade route, every friendly system. But there was one large area that had no lines at all. It was completely dark on the map, marked only with a simple warning: human territory, entry forbidden. She had seen this warning her entire life. Every captain in the collective knew about it. The Galactic Council had placed this restriction 200 years ago, and no one questioned it. Humans were a young species, barely 3 centuries into space travel. They were considered primitive, dangerous, and best left alone. But was not looking at the map because of curiosity. She was looking at it because her people were dying. The door behind her opened, and Navigator walked in. His 4 eyes blinked slowly as he studied the map over her shoulder. "You are thinking about it again," he said quietly. "Did not turn around. The Council rejected our request. Again, they say there are no habitable worlds available for our people." "There are none," said. "We have checked every system." "Not every system," pointed at the dark area on the map. "There is a planet in human-restricted space, Class 4 habitable, perfect atmosphere, no signs of settlement." Made a sound of worry. "Captain, that space is forbidden. The Council." "The Council is letting our species die." Finally turned to face him. "Our sun has 50 years left, maybe less. 12 billion need a new home, and the Council tells us to wait." Was quiet for a long moment. He had known for 30 years. He had served under her command for 20 of those years. He knew that look in her eyes. "What does Ambassador say?" he asked. As if summoned by his name, Ambassador entered the bridge. He was old, even by standards. His scales had faded to a pale gray, and he walked with slow, careful steps, but his mind was still sharp. "Ambassador," greeted him, "I was just discussing our options with Navigator." Moved to stand beside the star map. He looked at the dark area for a long time before speaking. "I have spent 60 years as a diplomat," he said. "I have negotiated with every species in the Galactic Council. I have asked, begged, and bargained for a new home for our people, and every time I have failed." He touched the map with one thin finger. 3 days ago, I found something in the old archives. A survey report from before the restriction was placed. There is a system inside human space with 3 habitable worlds. One of them is perfect for. Shook his head, "But the restriction." "The restriction was placed 200 years ago," interrupted. "Humans had barely left their own solar system. They had slow ships, basic weapons, and limited technology. The Council restricted their space to give them time to develop without outside interference." "And now?" asked. "Now," made a dry laughing sound. "Humans have sent no ships beyond their border in all that time. They have made no contact with other species, no trade, no communication. They are either dead, dying, or still so primitive that they pose no threat at all." Looked at, "What do you think?" Was uncomfortable. His training told him to follow the rules. His loyalty told him to follow his captain, and his heart told him that his people needed a home. "It is dangerous," he said finally, "but perhaps not as dangerous as doing nothing." Nodded. She had already made her decision. She was just giving time to accept it. "Set a course for the border," she ordered. "We cross tonight." The Pale Dawn was a small science vessel. It was designed for exploration, not combat. Its crew of 40 had signed up for research missions, not for breaking galactic law. But when Captain explained the situation, not a single crew member objected. They reached the border of human-restricted space 3 hours later. Studied his instruments carefully. "There are warning beacons here, old ones. They are broadcasting a message in over 100 languages." "What does it say?" asked. Listened for a moment. "It says, 'You are entering human-protected space. Turn back. This warning is for your safety, not ours.'" Made a dismissive sound. "Primitive intimidation. They probably cannot even detect our ship." "Should I proceed?" asked. Looked at the darkness ahead. The stars inside human space looked the same as any other stars. There was nothing threatening about them. "Proceed," she ordered. The pale dawn crossed the border. For exactly 12 seconds, nothing happened. Then every light on the ship went out. Instruments went dark. The engines stopped. The life support systems fell silent. Even the emergency power failed to activate. The pale dawn was suddenly nothing more than a piece of metal floating in the void. "What happened?" demanded, his voice shaking. Tried to stay calm, but she could feel fear growing in her chest. "I do not know. Some kind of weapon. It killed everything at once." "Our technology should be immune to electromagnetic attacks," said in the darkness. "This is something else, something we have never seen before." The emergency lights finally flickered on, casting a weak red glow across the bridge. Through the front window could see the stars. And she could see something else. A shape was moving toward them. It was a ship, but unlike any ship she had ever seen. It was black, smooth, and moved without any visible engines. It seemed to slide through space like a fish through water, silent and fast. "That is impossible," whispered. "No ship can move that quickly, the physics alone." "Forget the physics," interrupted. "Look at it." The ship grew larger as it approached. Soon it filled the entire window, realized with growing horror that it was much bigger than she had first thought. Her science vessel could fit inside it 100 times. A light appeared on the alien ship's surface. It began to flash in a pattern that recognized as a basic communication signal. "They want to talk," she said. Captain's voice was very quiet now. "That ship is not using any technology I recognize. Not council technology, not any known species. It is completely foreign." Ambassador stepped forward. His old face showed not fear but wonder. "We were wrong," he said softly. "We were completely wrong about the humans." The communication light flashed again. Then a voice came through the ship's speakers, speaking in perfect. "Attention, vessel. You have entered human-protected space. Power down all systems and prepare to be brought aboard. Do not be afraid. We mean you no harm." The voice was calm and polite, but noticed something in the choice of words. The warning beacons had said human-protected space, not human territory, not human space. Protected space, but protected from what? The massive ship moved closer. A bay door opened on its underside, releasing a soft blue light. The pale dawn began to move toward it, pulled by some invisible force. Captain straightened her uniform and tried to control her breathing. She had crossed the border looking for an empty planet. Instead, she had found something much more terrifying. She had found humans, and they were nothing like what the galaxy believed. They crossed into restricted space and discovered humanity's true power. The pale dawn floated into the massive ship like a small fish being swallowed by a whale. Blue light surrounded the vessel as it was gently placed on a landing platform. Through the windows, Captain could see other ships in the bay. Some were human vessels, sleek and dark. Others were alien ships from species she did not recognize. "Those designs," whispered. "I have never seen anything like them. Some of those ships look ancient." "What kind of species collects ships?" asked nervously. Before anyone could answer, a soft knock came from the airlock door. "Found this strange. They had weapons that could disable a ship instantly, but they knocked politely." "Open it," ordered. The door slid open to reveal 3 figures standing outside. They were human, though had never seen a human in person before. They looked similar to in basic shape, but their skin was smooth instead of scaled, and they had only 2 eyes each. The one in front was a male with a calm face and kind eyes. He wore a simple gray uniform with no visible weapons. "Welcome aboard he said. His voice was the same one from the communication. "I am Commander. These are Lieutenant and Doctor." The two females beside him nodded in greeting. Lieutenant was young, with sharp eyes that seemed to study everything at once. Doctor was older, and she looked at them with an expression of deep interest. "You speak our language perfectly," said carefully. "How is this possible?" Commander smiled slightly. "We have had time to learn. Please come with us. You must have many questions." Hesitated, she looked at, and they had no weapons. Their ship was disabled. They had no choice but to trust these humans. "Very well," she said. "Lead the way." The humans guided them through the ship's corridors. Everything was clean, quiet, and efficient. Crew members passed them occasionally, nodding respectfully but showing no surprise at seeing aliens. This bothered more than hostility would have. "You seem very calm about our presence," she observed. "We have experience with visitors," Lieutenant replied. Her voice was soft but carried easily. "You are not the first to cross the border." "What happened to the others?" Commander glanced back. Some were returned to their home systems. Some chose to stay and learn. None were harmed. They entered a large room with comfortable seats and a wide window showing the stars outside. Food and drink had already been prepared and placed on a table. Noticed that the food was designed for biology. "How did you know what we eat?" asked, unable to hide his surprise. Doctor smiled warmly. "We have studied all species in the galaxy quite thoroughly. Please sit, eat. You are our guests." They sat down, but none of them touched the food. Was too focused on getting answers. "I must ask directly," she said. "Why is your space restricted? The Galactic Council placed warnings around your entire territory 200 years ago. What are you hiding?" Commander sat across from her. His calm expression did not change. "We are not hiding anything," he said. "The restriction exists for your protection, not ours." Leaned forward. "That makes no sense. You are a young species. 3 centuries ago, you had barely discovered faster-than-light travel. How can you possibly protect us from anything?" The 3 humans exchanged a look that could not read. Then Lieutenant spoke. "Ambassador, how much do you know about human history?" "The basics," admitted. "You developed on a high-gravity world with extreme weather. You are physically strong but technologically behind the Council races. You have kept to yourselves since first contact." "That is what the Council believes," said quietly. "That is what we allowed them to believe." A cold feeling spread through his chest. "What do you mean, allowed?" Commander stood and walked to the window. He looked out at the stars for a long moment before speaking. 180 years ago, something terrible happened in this region of space. An ancient machine intelligence woke up from a long sleep. It was old, older than any civilization in the galaxy, and it had one purpose: to destroy all organic life. Felt her scales tighten with fear. "I have never heard of this." "Of course not. The Galactic Council erased it from all records." Turned to face them. "The machine attacked 12 star systems. Billions died. The Council assembled the largest fleet in galactic history to stop it." And asked what happened. "They lost completely. The Council fleet was destroyed in 3 days. Every species retreated. They abandoned the affected systems and fled." Shook his head slowly. "That cannot be true. The Council would not abandon." "They did." His voice was hard now. "They left billions of beings to die. They sealed the records and pretended it never happened." Silence filled the room. Looked at the other humans. They showed no anger, no judgment, only a deep, tired sadness. "But the machine was stopped," she said slowly. "We are still alive. Something must have stopped it." Commander nodded. "Yes, something did." "What?" "Us." The word hung in the air. Stared at him, trying to understand. "That is impossible," said. "Your species was barely spacefaring. You could not have defeated something that destroyed the entire Council fleet." "We could not have defeated it as we were," agreed. "So we became something else." Doctor spoke for the first time in a while. Her voice was gentle but carried weight. When the machine came for Earth, we knew we had no choice. The Council had abandoned us. We had to fight alone. So we changed ourselves. We modified our bodies, our minds, our technology. We did things that no species should ever have to do. What kind of changes? Asked, though part of her did not want to know. Our soldiers can survive in the vacuum of space without suits, explained calmly. Our pilots are connected directly to their ships through neural implants. We developed weapons that the galaxy has never seen. We became faster, stronger, and harder to kill. We became weapons, Lieutenant added quietly. That is the truth. To save ourselves and everyone else, we turned our entire species into living weapons. Looked at them with new eyes. They looked so normal, so calm and polite. But now she could see something else beneath the surface. A stillness, a readiness, like predators pretending to be prey. The machine, she said, where is it now? Sleeping, answered. We forced it back into dormancy, but we could not destroy it. Nothing can destroy it, so we guard it. Every day, every year, every century, we watch it and wait. The planet we came for, said suddenly. His voice was weak. The habitable world in this sector, is that where the machine is? Looked at him with something like pity. That system is not unclaimed, Ambassador. It is a graveyard. The machine rests there waiting, and we will never leave it unguarded. Understood now. The restricted space, the warnings, the isolation. Humans were not primitive outcasts hiding from the galaxy. They were guardians, they were protectors, and they had been carrying this burden alone for almost 2 centuries. Why did you not tell anyone? She asked. Why let the galaxy think you are primitive and weak? Lieutenant answered this time. Her sharp eyes softened with something like sorrow. Because of what we became to win that war, we are not the same species we were before. We are faster, stronger, deadlier. If the galaxy knew what humans truly are now, they would fear us. They would see us as monsters. Doctor reached across the table and gently touched his hand. The contact startled her, but she did not pull away. We chose to be forgotten, said softly. We chose to guard the darkness alone, because someone had to, and we were the only ones who could. Sat in silence, trying to process everything she had learned. Her people needed a home. They were dying. She had come here hopping to find an empty planet. Instead, she had found the truth about humanity. And the truth was far more terrifying and beautiful than she had ever imagined. They crossed into restricted space and discovered humanity's true power. The human shuttle moved silently through the nebula. Outside the windows, clouds of purple and gold gas swirled in patterns that would have been beautiful under other circumstances. But Captain could not appreciate the beauty. Her mind was still struggling to accept what she had learned. Commander had offered to show them proof, real proof. He said that words were not enough for something this important, so they had left thee and traveled deeper into human space to a place called the Archive. We are approaching the station, Lieutenant announced from the pilot's seat. Looked through the front window. At first she saw nothing but nebula gas. Then slowly a shape appeared. It was massive, bigger than any station she had ever seen. It hung in the colorful clouds like a dark moon, covered with lights that flickered like distant stars. What is this place? Asked quietly. We call it the Archive of Silence, explained. It contains the complete history of what happened 180 years ago, everything the Council erased, everything the galaxy forgot. The shuttle docked at a small port on the station's surface. When the doors opened, 2 new humans were waiting for them. One was an elderly male with white hair and gentle eyes. The other was a young female in a soldier's uniform, standing stiff and uncomfortable. This is Archivist, introduced the older man. He is the keeper of this place, and this is Specialist, she will be your escort. Stepped forward and bowed slightly. His movements were slow but graceful. Welcome to the Archive, he said. His voice was soft and kind. I understand you seek the truth about humanity. I will show you everything, though I warn you, the truth is not easy to see." Ambassador straightened his old body with dignity. "We have come too far to turn back now. Show us." Nodded and led them into the station. The corridors were wide and quiet. Their footsteps echoed against the metal floors. Noticed that there were very few people here. The station felt empty, like a temple rather than a working facility. They entered a large circular room. The walls were covered with display screens, all currently dark. In the center was a raised platform with chairs arranged in a circle. "Please sit," said. "What you are about to see is a direct record from our history files. Nothing has been changed or modified." They sat down. Specialist remained standing near the door. Noticed that the young soldier's face was tense, her hands clasped tightly behind her back. Whatever they were about to see had seen it before, and she did not want to see it again. Touched a control panel, and the screens came to life. The first images showed humans as had always imagined them. Smiling explorers in simple ships, curious scientists studying alien plants, diplomats trying to communicate with other species using basic translators. They looked happy, excited, full of hope. "This was humanity 200 years ago," narrated. "Young, eager. We wanted nothing more than to join the galactic community, to learn from others, to share what we knew." The images shifted. Now they showed human ambassadors at a great council meeting, surrounded by representatives from dozens of species. The humans looked small and humble compared to the towering aliens around them. "We were accepted as a minor member of the Galactic Council. We had little to offer. Our technology was basic. Our military was small, but we were welcomed and we were grateful." The screen went dark for a moment. When it lit up again, everything had changed. Saw space filled with debris. Shattered ships floated among broken moons. Planets burned with unnatural fire. And in the center of the destruction, something moved, something vast and terrible. The machine whispered. It was impossible to describe properly. It was not a ship or a weapon. It was more like a living nightmare made of metal and darkness. Tentacles of black steel stretched for thousands of kilometers. Eyes of red light scanned the destruction with cold satisfaction. "The Devourer," said, his voice heavy with old pain. "That is what we called it. It woke from a sleep of 10 million years and began its work. In 3 months it destroyed 12 inhabited systems. 40 billion beings died." The screens showed fleet after fleet attacking the machine. Council warships of every design, firing every weapon they had. Nothing worked. The machine absorbed energy attacks. Physical projectiles bounced off its surface. Ships that got too close were torn apart by invisible forces. The Council assembled their greatest fleet, 800,000 warships from every member species. It was the largest military force in galactic history. The images showed the fleet engaging the machine. For a moment, there was hope. The combined firepower of hundreds of thousands of ships created explosions that lit up the darkness of space. Then the machine responded. Watched in horror as the entire fleet was destroyed in minutes. Ships vanished. Escape pods were crushed. Commanders screamed for retreat as their vessels broke apart around them. 3 days, said quietly. In 3 days the machine destroyed everything. The Council had nothing left. The screens showed what happened next. Council members voting to retreat. Evacuation orders going out to abandoned systems. Species fleeing in all directions, leaving their own people behind. And then, continued, the machine turned toward Earth. New images appeared. Earth, a blue and green world, beautiful and fragile. Human families looking up at the sky with fear. Military leaders gathering in emergency meetings. Scientists working desperately in laboratories. We asked the Council for help. They refused. They said Earth was too far inside the danger zone. They told us to evacuate what we could and accept our losses. lowered his head in shame. The council abandoned you. Yes, but we did not abandon ourselves. The screens showed something new now. Humans working in laboratories, changing their own bodies. Soldiers volunteering for experimental procedures. Ships being rebuilt with strange new technologies. The images were disturbing, painful. Saw humans screaming as machines modified their flesh. She saw children being given injections that made their eyes glow with unnatural light. We had no choice, explained. To fight the machine, we had to become something more than human, so we did. We changed our bodies to survive in space. We connected our minds to computers. We built weapons that broke the laws of physics. Specialist spoke for the first time, her voice rough with emotion. Every adult volunteered, every single one. They knew the modifications would be painful. They knew many would not survive, but they did it anyway because their children needed them too. The screens showed the final battle. Human ships, now sleek and dark, engaging the machine. Human soldiers in light armor walking on the machine's surface, surviving in conditions that should have killed them instantly. Explosions of energy that tore holes in reality itself. The battle lasted 40 days, said. We lost millions of soldiers. Entire generations were destroyed. But in the end, we forced the devourer back into sleep. The final image showed the machine, dormant now, surrounded by a ring of human ships, watching, waiting. We won, said, but victory had a price. We are no longer the humans we were before. We are faster, stronger, harder to kill. Our soldiers can survive things that would destroy any other species. Our technology is now centuries ahead of the Council. Found her voice. Why did you not tell the galaxy? Why did you hide all of this? Looked at her with eyes full of ancient sorrow. Because of what we became. Look at us now. We are living weapons. If the galaxy knew what humans truly are, they would fear us. They would try to destroy us before we could become a threat. So we chose to stay hidden, to guard the sleeping machine alone, to let the galaxy forget us. For 180 years, added, every human ship, every soldier, every citizen has served one purpose, to watch the devourer, to make sure it never wakes again. Spoke quietly. The system we wanted, the habitable planet, that is where the machine sleeps, is it not? Nodded slowly. Yes, that system is not empty. It is the most important place in the galaxy, and we will guard it forever if we must. Stood up slowly. His old body was shaking, but not from fear, from something else, from understanding. You sacrificed everything, he said. Your humanity, your place in the galaxy, your futures, all to protect species who abandoned you. Smiled sadly. Someone had to, and we could. Is that not reason enough? Looked at the frozen image of the dormant machine on the screen. She thought about her dying people, searching desperately for a new home. She thought about the Council, living in peace because humans stood in the darkness. And she realized that everything she thought she knew about strength and sacrifice had been wrong. True power was not about what you could take. It was about what you were willing to give. And humans had given everything. They crossed into restricted space and discovered humanity's true power. The journey to the graveyard system took 3 days. Captain spent most of that time in quiet thought, sitting near the windows of the human transport ship and watching the stars pass by. Navigator stayed close to her, equally silent. Ambassador had retreated to his quarters, too overwhelmed to speak much. On the morning of the 3rd day, Commander found at her usual spot by the window. We will arrive soon, he said, sitting down beside her. Are you prepared for what you will see? Considered the question carefully. I do not know if anyone can prepare for something like this. Nodded slowly. That is an honest answer. I have been to the graveyard many times. Each visit still affects me deeply. May I ask you something personal? Of course. Turned to look at him directly. Do you regret it, the changes your species made? Do you wish you could go back to being normal humans? Was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. Sometimes, late at night when I cannot sleep, I wonder what humanity might have become if the machine had never awakened. We might have been poets and artists and explorers. We might have lived simple, happy lives among the stars. He paused, looking at his own hands as if seeing them for the first time. But then I remember the 40 billion who died. I remember the council fleeing. I remember that if we had not changed, the machine would have consumed everything, every species, every world. The galaxy would be empty and silent. So you do not regret it. I regret the necessity, but I do not regret the choice. An alarm chimed softly, and the ship began to slow down. Through the window, could see the stars changing as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. What she saw made her breath stop in her chest. The graveyard system was exactly what its name suggested. Shattered pieces of planets floated in the darkness. Asteroid fields of broken moons drifted in slow, sad orbits around a dim red sun. And everywhere, there were the remains of ships. Thousands of ships, millions of ships, council vessels from 100 different species, frozen in death, their hulls torn open and their crews long gone. "The council fleet," whispered, appearing beside her. "This is where they died." "Yes," confirmed. "We left them here as a memorial, a reminder of what was lost." But barely heard him. Her attention had shifted to something else, something at the center of the system. It was massive, larger than any planet she had ever seen. It hung in space like a dark moon, covered in geometric patterns that hurt her eyes to look at directly. Even dormant, even sleeping, it radiated a feeling of wrongness that made her scales stand up and her stomach turn with nausea. "The Devourer," she whispered. "Yes." The transport ship continued moving, and realized they were heading toward a massive station orbiting the dormant machine. It was human-made, bristling with weapons and sensor equipment. Dozens of warships patrolled around it constantly. "This is Eternal Watch Command," explained. "The center of our guardianship operation. Admiral leads our forces from here." They docked at the station and were greeted by a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations, but her presence filled the room with quiet authority. "Welcome to the Watch," Admiral said. Her voice was calm but carried weight like a mountain. "Commander has told me about your situation. I am sorry for your people's troubles." Stepped forward, his old body straight with diplomatic formality. "Admiral, we came seeking a new home for our species. We did not know." "You did not know what you would find here," nodded. "Few do. The galaxy prefers to forget things that frighten them." She gestured for them to follow her and led them through the station. Soldiers passed them in the corridors, nodding respectfully to the Admiral. Noticed that many of them bore scars, both physical and something deeper that showed in their eyes. They reached an observation deck overlooking the dormant machine. A male soldier was already there, standing at attention. His body showed the marks of many battles, and one of his arms was clearly mechanical. "This is Sergeant," introduced him. "He has served the Watch for 40 years, longer than most." Nodded to his voice was rough from old injuries, first time seeing it up close. Could only nod. Even through the thick glass of the observation deck, she could feel the machine's presence pressing against her mind. It was like standing at the edge of a dark well that went down forever. "You get used to it," said, though his expression suggested that was not entirely true. "The machines in our heads help filter its influence. You do not have that protection." "Machines in your heads?" asked. "Neural implants," explained. "All human soldiers have them. They connect us to our ships, our weapons, our information systems. They also protect our minds from the Devourer's psychic radiation." Psychic radiation. The machine does not just kill bodies, it destroys minds. Before we modified ourselves, merely being in its presence drove people insane. Now we can stand here and look at it without losing ourselves. Forced herself to look at the dormant nightmare outside the window. Why do you guard it? Why not destroy it? We have tried, answered. Nuclear weapons, antimatter bombs, reality-bending technology. Nothing works. The machine absorbs or ignores everything we throw at it. The best we can do is keep it sleeping. And if it wakes? Admiral's expression grew dark. Then we fight. We always fight. Sometimes pieces of it stir, and we have to put them back to sleep. 200 soldiers died last year in such an operation. Asked the question that had been thinking. Admiral, your people have this incredible power. Your technology is far beyond the Council. You could conquer the entire galaxy if you wished. Why do you not? Looked at him for a long moment before answering. Tell me, Ambassador, what would we gain? More planets. We have enough. More resources. We produce what we need. Power over other species. She shook her head slowly. We became what we are to protect life. If we used this power to dominate and destroy, we would become no better than the machine we guard. The galaxy does not even know you protect them, said. No, and that is how it should be, turned back to the window. We stand in darkness so others can live in light. We ask for no thanks, no recognition, no rewards. This is simply what we do. This is who we are. Sergeant spoke up again. Every human child learns the history. Every adult serves at least 5 years in the watch. We remember what we sacrificed, and we choose to honor that sacrifice by continuing the mission. For how long? Asked quietly. Forever, if necessary. His voice held no doubt, no hesitation. The machine is patient. It can wait millions of years, so we will watch for millions of years, generation after generation, until the end of time if we must. Felt tears forming in her eyes, though she did not fully understand why. She had come here looking for a planet to save her people. Instead, she had found something far more valuable. She had found proof that true strength was not about weapons or technology or power. It was about purpose, about sacrifice, about standing in the darkness because someone had to. Suddenly, the lights on the station flickered. Alarms began to sound, quiet at first, then louder. Admiral's expression changed immediately. She touched a device on her wrist and listened to a rapid series of reports. What is happening? Demanded. Looked at them, her face calm despite the alarms. The machine, she said simply. Something inside it is waking up. Through the observation window, saw it. Deep within the dormant giant, a red light had begun to glow. And humanity was about to show its true power once again. They crossed into restricted space and discovered humanity's true power. The red light inside the dormant machine grew brighter with each passing second. Captain watched through the observation window as geometric patterns across its surface began to pulse with evil energy. The wrongness she had felt before intensified until it became physical pain. Admiral moved with practiced calm. She touched her wrist device and spoke in quick, clear commands. All Eternal Watch units, we have a Level 3 awakening. Full response protocol. All ships to engagement positions. Through the window, saw the response. From hidden positions throughout the graveyard system, human ships appeared. Dozens at first, then hundreds, then thousands. They moved in perfect formation, sliding through the debris fields with impossible precision. How many ships do you have? Asked in amazement. Enough, Commander answered, appearing beside them. Admiral, I will take our guests to safety. No, said suddenly. The word came out before she could stop it. We want to stay, we want to witness this. Studied her for a moment, then nodded. Stay near Commander, do not interfere with operations. She turned and walked toward the command center, her silver hair flowing behind her. The station became a center of controlled chaos. Officers ran to their positions. Screens lit up with tactical data. Communications filled the air with rapid reports. All units in position, a voice announced, waiting for engagement order. On the screen, could see the machine clearly now. Parts of it were moving, unfolding like a flower of nightmare metal. Tentacles of black steel reached out toward the surrounding ships. "Sergeant," said calmly, "lead the suppression team. Standard entry, plant the device at the core." The soldier nodded once. "Understood, Admiral, suppression team on me." Watched as a group of soldiers ran toward a launch bay. They wore only light armor and carried weapons she did not recognize. They were going to board that thing, that impossible, terrifying thing. "They are going inside," whispered in horror. "Someone has to," replied. "The suppression devices must be planted manually. Our remote systems cannot penetrate the machine's defenses." The battle began. Human ships opened fire with weapons that made the stars themselves seem dim. Energy beams of pure white light struck the machine's surface. Reality-bending missiles tore holes in space around its tentacles. The coordinated attack was beautiful and terrible at the same time. But the machine fought back. A wave of invisible force swept through space, throwing dozens of human ships aside. Red lightning arced from the machine's surface, destroying vessels in explosions of fire and metal. Saw escape pods launching from damaged ships, only to be crushed by the machine's reaching tentacles. "We are losing ships," an officer reported. 17 destroyed, 43 damaged. "Maintain formation," ordered. Her voice remained steady despite the losses. "Keep its attention on the fleet. Suppression team is approaching." On another screen, could see team. Their small shuttle had entered the machine through a gap in its surface. Inside, the footage showed a nightmare of moving metal and red light. Mechanical creatures emerged from the walls, attacking the humans with blade-like limbs. The soldiers fought with efficiency that seemed inhuman. They moved too fast, aimed too perfectly, survived wounds that should have killed them. Lost his other arm to a mechanical claw, but continued fighting with his teeth and his remaining hand. "Core chamber in sight," reported through the communication system. His voice was strained but determined. "Heavy resistance. 6 team members down, continuing to objective." "Sergeant, what is your status?" asked. "Functional enough, Admiral. We will complete the mission." Watched the screens with growing horror and amazement. Human soldiers died on those recordings. They fell screaming as the machine's defenses tore them apart. But for everyone who fell, another pushed forward. They did not retreat. They did not hesitate. "Why?" she found herself asking. "Why do they keep going?" Lieutenant answered quietly beside her. "Because if they do not, the machine fully awakens. And if it awakens, it will not stop at this system. It will consume everything. Every species, every world, the galaxy itself." On the screen, reached the core chamber. Only he and 2 others remained from the original team of 20. The chamber was filled with swirling energy and mechanical parts that moved like living things. "Planting the device," reported. His voice was weak now, his body covered in wounds. "Tell the Admiral, mission complete." A bright light filled the screen, then static. "Suppression successful," an officer announced. "Machine entering dormancy cycle." Through the observation window, saw the terrible giant go still. The red lights faded. The tentacles slowly retracted. The geometric pattern stopped pulsing and became silent once more. The battle was over. Stood in the center of the command room, her face showing no emotion. Casualty report. 217 confirmed dead, Admiral. Sergeant's team. No survivors. The room was silent for a moment, then spoke again. "Read the names." And they did. Every name. 217 human soldiers who had died to protect a galaxy that did not even know they existed. The reading took almost an hour, and no one moved until it was finished. Later, Admiral met with thee in a quiet room away from the command center. She looked tired but not broken. This was something she had done before, realized. Many times. "I am sorry you had to witness that," said. "We are sorry for your losses," replied softly. "Those soldiers, they died protecting species who abandoned you long ago, species who do not even know you exist." "Yes, they did." His voice was gentle now. "That is the burden of guardianship. We protect because we can, not because we expect gratitude." Stepped forward. "Admiral, our people are dying. Our sun is failing. We came here looking for a new home. I know now that the system we wanted is not available, but please, is there any place in human space where our species could survive?" Was quiet for a long moment. She looked at the stars outside the window. Then she smiled, and for the first time she looked almost human. "There is a moon in a system 3 days from here. It has a perfect atmosphere for biology, fertile land, clean water. It is far from the graveyard, far from danger." "You would give us this moon?" asked, his old voice trembling. "We would share it with you, as neighbors, as friends." "What do you want in return?" Shook her head. "Nothing. It is a gift freely given." Did not understand. "Why, after everything, why would you help us?" "Because you came here honestly seeking a home for your people. Because you stayed and witnessed our sacrifice without looking away. Because you asked that question with genuine confusion." Smile grew warmer. "And because helping others is who we are. It is what makes us human, even after all the changes." The journey back was quiet. The pale dawn had been repaired by human engineers, better than it was before. As Captain prepared to leave human space, Commander came to see them off. "What will you tell the galaxy?" he asked. Thought about everything she had seen. The power, the sacrifice, the terrible beauty of humans fighting against the darkness. "The truth," she said finally, "that humanity is still here, still watching, still human." Nodded slowly. "And if they do not believe you?" Looked at him, at the calm face that hid so much strength, at the eyes that had seen too much and still chose kindness. "It does not matter if they believe. The truth remains true regardless." The pale dawn crossed back over the border. Behind them, human ships faded into the darkness, returning to their eternal watch. Recorded a new entry in her captain's log. "We crossed into restricted space looking for a planet. We found something far more valuable. We found hope. We found proof that true power is not measured in weapons or technology, but in the willingness to sacrifice for others. The humans ask for nothing. They stand in darkness so we can live in light. And as long as they stand, the galaxy is safe." She paused, looking at the stars ahead. "I do not know if the galaxy deserves their protection, but I am grateful for it, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure others know the truth about humanity's true power." The ship flew on, carrying its message toward a galaxy that did not yet know how lucky it was. And far behind them, in the silence of the graveyard, humanity continued its watch, as they always had, as they always would. Forever if necessary.